We will be doing one of the most important topics of applied biology, and I will be telling you what that is. So let us finish with this topic of applied biology. It has been a very interesting also topic, but all what is required is that we have to understand this topic in a very nice manner, because what happens that in both in part B and part C, question from this part of applied biology comes, and that is applications. That is applications of immunology, or you can also say applications of immunology will also mean the immunological techniques. So all the immunological techniques we will be dealing in this chapter, and then we will be taking all the questions related to all the topics of the applied biology, starting from the microbial fermentation to biosensors. All of the topics will be discussed. It has been already discussed. The questions have also been done, but what is not done is in some portions we have not covered the questions, so we will be doing those, and also for immunological techniques. So first let's complete the basis of this. So what is most important in immunological techniques is what are the medical diagnosis techniques, or what are the vaccines that are used that are made using the immunological principles. So what could be those things? Those can be your vaccines, that obviously which are made using the principles of immunology. Then there can be monoclonal or polyclonal antibody. Then there can be diagnostic immunology. So all these things are very important in our immunological techniques. So we will be taking all these things one by one, and then we'll be discussing all of them in detail. So let's see, what is vaccination? Where does this vaccine word come from? So all of you know that vaccination is a method. It is a method of doing what? It is a method by which we induce. You have to understand that it is a method of induction. So what do we induce? What is required? What is lacking? So whenever there is any disease, or whenever there is a attack by a bacteria, virus, or any pathogen, or for example cancer or anything, whatever happens to our body, what is utmost requirement of the body is that it should have immunity. It should show immune response towards the particular pathogen. So here, if our body cannot show appropriate immunity for a given disease or pathogen, then we have to induce that immunity from outside. So what are those things which can induce the immunity will be taken care of. So if there is any bacteria or virus which causes some kind of disease, so what we will be doing is we will be taking those bacteria and viruses, will be heat killing it, or maybe just killing it, or using only the those dead parts of the bacteria or virus, in order to just show the body that this is the kind of pathogen that a body can deal with later on. So our body should be prepared for that kind of immunity. Okay, so this is a very simple kind of vaccination that I have been telling you. So I'll be discussing all these things in detail. So now you know that vaccination is a method of induction of, so you can write it is a method of induction of artificial immunity. Okay, so I told you that immunity is been induced against what? Against a particular pathogen. And what is how do you do it? You expose the body, you expose the individual, okay, to some form of pathogen. So whether it is dead body parts, or the specific biochemical parts, anything of that particular pathogen, that will be used as the immunological thing in order to induce the artificial immunity in the particular organism or host. Okay, so this is you can also call it as immunization. This pathogen is nothing but an immunization. Okay, so now I think you would understand vaccination very properly, that it is a method of induction of artificial immunity by exposing the individual to some form of pathogen. Okay, now what it does, when we will be doing immunology, I'll be telling you in detail that what happens when we do the immunization techniques. So it triggers immunization, it triggers adaptive immune response. So you must be knowing the difference between passive and adaptive immune response. So passive is the one that our body already has since childbirth. It can come from the mother's feed, or it can be just made in the body on its own. But when there is some kind of pathogen or attack or anything which comes from outside, and for that when our body produces some kind of immune response, then it is acquired or adaptive immune response. Okay, so we are talking about the immune response that which comes against any pathogen from outside. So this is the secondary kind of immune response that our body does for any kind of pathogen. Now adaptive immune response deals with two kind of release of cells, and those are, it can it can help in the production of memory T and B cells, and those can be specific for antigen. So I think that you know what antigen means. Is antigen is actually very important part of the problem, and that is any kind of pathogen, any kind of outside material, any kind of biochemical agent which is coming and attacking the immune response, coming and attacking the body and creating an immune response, is an antigen. Okay, now this antigen is the one against which the body is fighting, and it the molecules that are released to kill these antigen can be antibody, or it can be any kind of other mechanism in order to kill that antigen. It can be natural killer cells, it can be dendritic cells, it can be macrophages, it can be anything which is meant to kill the antigen or just to finish the antigen of the inside the body. Okay, now you have to also understand, so you can write it, any foreign agent or biochemical agent or any organism, can be microbes, virus, parasite. Okay, then let's talk about memory T and B cells. So you all know that memory is very important in adaptive immune response. And why is it so? Because whenever there is a there is an attack by the pathogen, the body first tries to find out whether this has been the first attack or this has been the second attack, what kind of attack is this, and then it tries to find out that how to deal with it. So if already we have a kind of vaccination, or we have that kind of organism in our body, for example dead cells, dead bacterial cells of a particular bacteria which causes some kind of disease in the body, then what will happen is that our body will recognize if any kind of attack further will come from the same bacteria from outside. So the body remembers, the immune cells remembers that I have been attacked by this bacteria before and now I have to act against it. So that do not take much of the time of the body to first identify the organism and then do the initial phase of immunity and then the secondary phase of immunity. It does not go like that. So the vaccination is very, very important in that way, that it activates the immunity in the first go. That is why the memory is very, very important. Even if you don't have a vaccination for a particular disease, and if you for example you got typhoid, or you got measles, or you got chicken pox, any of these kind of diseases, if you get once in your lifetime, then what will happen next, and you have recovered from that very easily, from that disease, then next time whenever the same bacteria or virus will come and attack your body will remember that this was the organism that had created problem in my body last time. So this time I have to be very, very intelligent about this, and I have to deal with this in a very strong manner. So it drives the body, it defines the body to do a particular immune response. And that is why these cells are memory cells. These are very, very important part of the immune system. So you have to understand that why memory is very important. It is important because of the particular kind of thing, that whatever I have been whatever immune response is required during a particular process. So now you should know, I think you have understood all the important parts of memory and antigen. Then let's come to the second part, and let's find out what else the vaccination can do. So it can do a secondary exposure and this will result in a potent and immediate immune response. In a potent and immediate immune response. And why will this happen? It is since you know that this is a secondary exposure, because first exposure has been the vaccination itself. So whenever you have been given the vaccination, the body knows that there is some kind of organism in the body, and the body is already active for that kind of pathogen. And then whenever there will be any kind of pathogen attack, the body will remember that this is a same bacteria which is attacking me, and then there will be the very immediate action of the body towards that particular pathogen. So that is why we call it a potent, that it is very efficient and immediate. It has to be very efficient and immediate. That is why vaccination is important. So now let's talk about the various kinds of immunization techniques and various kinds of vaccination techniques. So what are the types of vaccination? Let's go through that once. Types of vaccination can be of different zones or different kind of bacteria or virus that we will be taking care of. It can be an entire organism, it can be some part of organism, it can be only the toxin part of the organism, which obviously is intoxicated or non-toxicated. So let's try to find out that what are the kinds of vaccination that are there in the market and that have been found out through research. So first it can be, you all must be knowing this, attenuated whole agent vaccine. So now what does this attenuated whole agent vaccine mean? First you have to understand that what is attenuated and then what is whole agent. So here it is entire bacteria or virus that you can understand from whole agent. Whole agent means it is using the entire microorganism, whether it is bacteria or virus or it is any other kind of agent against which the vaccination has been developed. And attenuated, what does attenuated means? Attenuated means it is weakened, it is changed. Attenuated means changed. Okay, so it can be live but it is weakened. That means it cannot produce a disease. It is live but it cannot produce a disease. It is that much weak. Okay, so you have to understand this in a very nice manner, that the entire organism will be present in the body, but it is weak enough to produce a disease. It cannot produce a disease, that is why it is a vaccine. Okay, the potency to create a disease has been attenuated, has been changed. Okay, that is why it is called attenuated whole agent vaccine. So it can be live, it is weakened, or it can be genetically modified, that the virulence part can be removed by genetic modification and only the organism can be left in the body without the virulence part of the organism. So if there is no virulence part and it has been genetically removed, or it can be removed by recombinant DNA technology, then what will happen is that there will be no disease causing property of that organism left in itself, and it will just be present in the body without causing any harm. But what benefit is it giving to the body is the body is active to produce immune response against that organism. Of course, why? Because it is an outside organism. That organism is not from our body, it is not self cell. A body can recognize between self and non-self cells. So those are the non-self cells, hence the body will create immune response against those organisms. Okay, then और क्या किया जा सकता है? It can also be done that it can be a mutant like I told you, using the genetically modified technique, you can create a mutation in that. It can be a mutant or a less virulent strain. Of pathogen. So it can be mutant, it can be less virulent strain of the pathogen, but it has to be the same pathogen, so that our body remembers that this is the bacteria or the virus on which I have to act and I have to create a immune response against it. Okay. So I think you now understood properly what attenuated whole agent vaccine means. It is a changed, it is a weakened whole bacteria or virus. Okay, so you have to understand this very, very clearly, that there are different kind of vaccinations, and one of them is attenuated. Second can be inactivated whole agent vaccine. Inactivated whole agent vaccine. Now this is from the name itself you can understand that it is again a whole agent, but it is inactivated. Now inactivated means the virulence can be modified, or there can be heat killed, or some way it has been killed in order to not produce any kind of disease in the body. The only benefit is that it should be just present in the body in with their the entire organism, so that the host body can find out that this is an outside organism, and we have to create an immunity against it. Okay, so here what happens in inactivated, the pathogen is killed. Pathogen is killed, and it can be killed by heat or chemical, some or the other way it is killed, and then this can be used as vaccine. So again, this will be an entire organism, but this is a killed organism. Okay, here the organism is live, but it is weak enough to create a disease, and here in inactivated whole agent it is killed, it is not even live, so it can never ever create a disease. Okay, that is why vaccines are safe. Then let's come to the third kind of vaccination technique, and that is toxoid vaccine. Now what does toxoid vaccine mean? So toxoid word has been derived from toxin. Toxin is the virulence factor or enzyme or any secretion that the microorganism, virus or bacteria does in order to produce a kind of disease, and that is toxin. It can be endotoxin, exotoxin, anything it can be, and it can cause a particular kind of disease in the body. Okay, so this is endotoxin and exotoxin, or any kind of toxin, a protein or enzyme that is deleterious for the host body, that is called toxin. Now what is toxoid, and how a toxin can be used as a vaccination? So here it is, again, if it is toxin, it is causing a disease. Okay, it is disease causing. So what I have to do is, in order to convert toxin into a vaccine, I have to remove the virulence part, I have to remove the disease causing part of the toxin, and what I will be doing is chemically inactivated. So I can chemically inactivate the toxins in order to make a vaccination out of it, or I can do anything, any kind of change which will inactivate the toxin, so that it cannot cause a disease. So from disease causing to a chemical which cannot cause a disease. Okay, from disease causing to a chemical which cannot cause a disease, then it can be converted into a vaccination, and this is called chemically inactivated toxin is called toxoid. This is called toxoid. Okay, so now I think you will understand that what is the difference between a toxoid vaccine. It is the virulence enzyme or secretion of the pathogen, and what we have to do, it can be endotoxin, it can be exotoxin, and it is disease causing. So what we can do, we can chemically inactivate the agent, we can chemically inactivate the toxin so that it is no more a virulence part of the pathogen, and then we can use it as a vaccination, and the name is called toxoid. Okay, then let's find out another kind of vaccine. It is called subunit vaccines. Now, what is subunit vaccine? It is a specific protein subunit, as you can understand from the subunit that it is part of a particular thing. So what it can be part of, what it can be part of a protein, it can be part of a pathogen or pathogen itself. Okay, so let's find out what a subunit vaccine can be. It can be a specific protein, it can be a protein fragment, from pathogen obviously. Okay, or it can be purified from pathogen, or it can be produced by okay. So these are the types of subunit vaccines. It can be a specific protein itself, okay, and the protein obviously is coming from some kind of pathogen. So then it can be a part of protein. There are sometimes what happens that whatever enzyme or protein is acting as a virulence factor, there are sometimes what happens is the entire protein is not virulent. Okay, from, as you know, the protein is from C terminal to N terminal, and then there are specific domains or helices, or then there are loops. There are a lot of things inside a protein, but what happens, sometimes the entire part of the protein is not toxin, but only a specific fragment of that part is toxic. Or if the entire protein is toxic, what we can do, we can take a particular part of that and a fragment of that and put it into the body, so that the it do not create any kind of disease in the body, but the body recognizes that this kind of fragment is a deadly fragment, and I have to create a response against it. Okay, so that is why the protein fragment or the protein itself can be used inside the body to create the immune response. Now what you can do, you can take the protein, part of the protein, or what you can do is you can purify it from the pathogen. So if a pathogen is secreting some kind of enzyme or protein which is disease causing, so what is your idea is to take out that protein, purify that protein from the pathogen, and then put it into the host, so that the host now knows that this is a kind of organism, this is the kind of what you can say thing against which I have to create a immune response. Okay, now not only this, there can be another technique with which you can make recombinant vaccine. So how a recombinant vaccine is made? As you know, that using the genetic engineering technique you can design a particular kind of um, a vaccine. So what will happen in that, you will be taking the entire protein which you know is disease causing, and you will clone it into a different organism. So this recombinant vaccine will be produced in a new organism or in a different organism. Okay, and how we will do it, I think I have told you all of this in the cloning part when we were doing microbial fermentation. During that chapter I had told you that how a recombinant vaccine or enzyme can be produced. So here in a new organism we can make a vaccine, and this vaccine can be used into the host organism. Okay, so now you have to understand that this is called subunit vaccine, right? Why is it called subunit? Because the entire organism is not used, but only the protein part is used, or the fragment of the protein is used, okay, as a vaccine. Now, other than this, there is one more type of vaccine, and that is conjugated vaccine. Now, what does conjugated vaccine means? From the name itself, you can identify that what does conjugated means. So, it is a small or non-protein antigen. You have to understand this, that it is a non-protein antigen. These are the very, very small things that you must learn or understand, because these small things can come into your part B questions and you can easily lose your very easy marks. Okay, so just try to remember all these things, that when we are talking about subunit protein, we are subunit vaccine, we are talking about the protein. When we are talking about conjugated vaccine, we are talking about the non-protein part of the antigen. Okay, and you what is the entire idea of using a conjugated vaccine is that here the whatever part we are using, the small non-proteinaceous part we are using of the antigen, we have to attach it with a carrier. Okay, so this attachment with a carrier is called conjugation. Okay, now why a carrier is important here? A carrier is important because this is a very, very small part that we are using, and it is also non-proteinaceous. Sometimes protein can generate immune response on its own, but if there is something which is non-proteinaceous, then there are chances that it cannot produce that much antigenic or immunogenic response. So for that, what we can do is we can attach a carrier to it. Okay, so this carrier will go and bind to this part, and then it will enhance the immune response. So the benefit of the carrier, please mind it, please read it carefully in the books also, that the carrier will enhance, both of these things will enhance the immune response. Okay, that is why this is attached to the non-proteinaceous protein antigen. These are very small things that are asked in the net examination, and please don't miss these small informations. Okay, these are very, very easy chapters of applied biology, but all you have to do it, you have to go through them, if not daily, but at least go through them once in a while and find out, because these are very easy things. Once you will read it, you will remember it. So do not skip this part of your syllabus. Do read it, because this will fetch you very, very easy marks. Okay, so these are very small informations that you must know. So it is necessary to enhance the immune response. That is why a carrier is used to the antigen here, and it is then made into a vaccine. Okay, so these are also called as molecular vaccine, and these are less effective. Of course, it can be less effective because of its non-protein character and because of the carrier. So carrier is used in order to increase the effectiveness, in order to make it more immunogenic, but still it can be less effective than the whole agents, obviously, because whole agents has a altogether different effect on the body, but still these are used as some or the other kind of vaccines in the market. Okay, so I think now I have told you all the kind of vaccines, and I think you have properly understood it, that how the things go on when we are trying to make a vaccine. It can be of various types. It can be the virulent part which has been inactivated, it can be the whole organism which has been heat killed, or it can be the protein part of the antigen, it can be the non-protein part of the antigen. So all of these are the things that we are using in order to make a proper important vaccine for a particular disease. Okay, so all these things are possible only when we know all the immunological principles. So if we do not know that which pathogen has what kind of pathogen has what kind of effect on a particular host, then we will not be able to develop a better toxin, better vaccine. Okay, so first we have to identify a particular problem, that which organism or which bacteria, virus, parasite is causing a disease to the body, and it is causing a disease in which part of the body. For example, there are some bacteria which causes disease in the skin, some causes disease in the lungs, some affect the kidney, some affect the urethra. So these are the particular things that we have to first notice about a particular organism, that how an organism is causing a disease. It is very important to know the mechanism with which it causes a disease. Only then we can identify or find out or resolve this by creating a new kind of chemical which is toxin that acts against the particular bacteria or virus. So you have to first know the biochemical pathway with which the bacteria or the parasite develops, how it causes a relation, how it makes a relationship with the host body, and it causes a disease. So all these things are very important for you to understand first in order to understand the role of the vaccine. Why? Because here whenever we are making a vaccine, we are not doing anything new. What we are doing is we are using the same bacteria or the bacterial parts or the bacterial biochemical agents for producing a vaccine. The method can be anything. It can be direct method, it can be recombinant method, it can be a very physical method of just heat killing the organism, but it has to be very precise, and it can be precise only when we know that what kind of mechanism go on by is used by the pathogen in order to create a disease. Okay, first is that. Second is that that you must know that if the body is creating immune response or not, what kind of immune response is generated or what kind of immune response is required. Sometimes we can use heat killed organism. Sometimes in some human body heat kill will not work, only the weakened pathogen will work. So we have to use the live organism in order to create an immune response, because immunity differs from human to human. So we have to cater to the kind of organism that we are dealing with, cater to the kind of host we are dealing with. So we have to first find out that what kind of immunity the person has, and then we can give them the kind of vaccination that is required. Okay, so you please go through all these vaccines and find out that what are the things, what are the bacteria, viruses, cancer, and what kind of diseases are they causing to the body, what kind of immune response is generated, and how a particular vaccine can be generated against them. Which of these vaccines will you use for a particular disease? So you have to question yourself also, and please, whenever you are reading, please read in such a way that you are questioning yourself. You are not reading, you are not just going through a particular topic, you are asking questions. Ask question to the author, ask question to yourself, that why this things has been mentioned there. Only then you will be able to answer certain things when you will be giving your examination. Okay, so let's quickly move to the next part of the topic, and this is also one of the very important topics, because we get questions in part B from this part, and let's see what is that. Now I have told you what conjugation means, so from it is very relevant to that. So we will be talking about haptens. Haptens and conjugated antigens. Okay, haptens and conjugated antigens. So here what is happening? Let's first find out that what is hapten and what are conjugated antigens. Okay, so haptens are small molecules and it is so small, very small, that it cannot create immune response. Okay, so I think you now understand what haptens is. Haptens is small molecule which are very small enough to create a immune response in the body. So how hapten can be used as a vaccination? This is the question. Okay, now if these are, say, this is a molecule, these are haptens. Okay, now as you can see, these are small molecules and they cannot create immune response, but we need this in order to use it as in to create the immune response. So what this will do to create the immune response? This will go and attach to a carrier molecule. For example, this is the carrier molecule. It will go and bind to this. Okay, so this is the carrier molecule. Okay, so what will happen? Now these will go and bind to these molecules. Okay, so now this is your hapten carrier conjugate. Okay, so I think we started with haptens and conjugate antigens. So what is hapten? I told you these are very small molecules which cannot create a immune response on its own. So what it does, it go and binds to a carrier molecule, and then this is called hapten carrier conjugate. Now this conjugate can act in such a way that it can create an immune response because it is now not that much small. Okay, Now the carrier molecule can be any protein, it can be anything with which the hapten molecule can go and bind. Protein is very easy target because proteins have active sites, protein have a lot of pockets where a particular molecule can go and bind. So then this hapten conjugate, carrier conjugate is made. Okay, now I told you that these are very small enough to create some kind of immune response. What can be these haptens? These can be polysaccharides. Okay, these can be anything, any small molecules, carbohydrates, कुछ भी हो सकता है. Obviously, you have to see that these are small and these are not immunogenic. Not immunogenic means those agents which cannot create an immune response. Okay, so in both the cases the conjugate is, the carrier molecule is necessary, the conjugate is necessary. Okay, so now I think you know what haptens is. Please remember what haptens are, because this question comes in the examination very often and we can make a mistake. So you have to understand that this can be antigenic, but this is not immunogenic. Okay, so there is a difference between antigenic and immunogenic. These are very small molecules that they cannot create an immune response, so these are not immunogenic. But anything which is coming from outside is an antigen, so it can be antigenic. Okay, please understand this. There's a difference between antigenic and immunogenic. Then let's find out what are the methods by which these kind of vaccinations can be produced. Okay, methods of vaccine production. So by now we know what are the types of vaccines, and then we'll be dealing with what are the methods by which the vaccines are produced. Okay, so first, it is very simple, that you grow the bacteria or the pathogen itself. Okay, because when we were discussing vaccination, first thing that we had discussed was the pathogen itself can act as a vaccination. So what we can do to produce a vaccination is to grow the bacteria, to grow the virus, or then just purify it so that a particular bacteria or virus is only there and there is not a mixture of these bacteria viruses. And then these are grown to a optimum level, that they are active, that they are in their growth phase, and then these are purified in order to develop into a vaccine. Okay, so first is growth and purification of the pathogen itself. So what did I tell you? It can be, bacteria can be cultured in media. This also I have told you in fermentation part, that what is a nutrient media, what is the growth media for the bacteria, and a particular bacteria can be grown in its particular media. It can be selective or enriched or any kind of media, and it can be grown in that. Then for viruses can be grown in eggs. Okay, and then these can be purified. All these things you have to purify and package. Okay, packaged as vaccine. So a simple technique of growing the bacteria virus and then purifying it and then using it as a vaccine. So this is a very easy method of making a vaccine, but you have to first find out that how much quantity of bacteria is required, or do you have to weaken it, do you have to kill it, what kind of things that you need to do once you grow the bacteria in order to make it into a vaccine. Okay, then production by recombinant method. Okay, so what we will do, we will develop a recombinant antigen. Recombinant antigen will again mean the same thing, that we will be using the genetic engineering technique to create or mutate a particular kind of protein or enzyme that is causing the disease, and then modifying and making changes in it, and then creating the same antigen and putting it into the host organism as a vaccine. Okay, so where can this be done? The recombination or the genetic engineering techniques are mostly done in bacteria, because these are the most simple things that can be grown in the laboratory. Okay, then how it can be changed, what all are the things that can be modified, what all are the things that can be mutated. So let's go through all of them. It can be gene encoding protein, सो जो भी पार्ट या जो भी जीन प्रोटीन प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, वो पार्ट हम एक प्लाज्मिड में डाल देंगे और फिर वहाँ से एक रिकॉम्बिनेंट एंटीजन डेवलप करेंगे. मतलब एक बैक्टीरिया एक काइंड ऑफ एंटीजन प्रोड्यूस कर रहा था, but what we are doing, we are not using the same bacteria to produce a protein, but we are taking only the gene of that bacteria which is making that protein, which is virulence, and then putting it into a plasmid, cloning it there, transforming it into a bacteria, and then developing the same protein that will be called as a recombinant antigen. Okay, so we are trying to make a recombinant antigen. Then please remember this, that it is gene encoding protein. Then it can be expressed in bacterial or host cells. They can be yeast cells. Okay, so you are taking the gene, you are putting into a plasmid, you are expressing that plasmid or transforming that plasmid into a bacteria or yeast, and then the protein is purified. So this in the entire process used as vaccine. Okay, so for making the recombinant antigen, what are the things that you require is, you require the gene that encodes the protein and which makes the antigen an antigen. Okay, you have to put this gene into the plasmid. This plasmid will now carry that gene which will make the antigenic protein. That protein will be expressed into a bacteria or yeast cell. That means this protein will not be expressed in the same organism which is causing the disease, but it is being expressed into a different bacteria or yeast cells, and then that protein will be purified from this bacteria, and then this will be used as a vaccine. So the benefit is that this entire process will be giving you a very pure vaccine. Okay, only this protein is made and nothing else is there. So that is why this is a very beautiful means of creating a vaccine. Okay, by genetic engineering. So now you know that how the vaccine is produced. It can be produced by growing the bacteria itself, or it can be used by purifying the proteins or the antigen from the bacteria or virus and then using it as a vaccine. Okay, so now let's quickly go through some kind of vaccines. Okay, so let's go through some of the bacterial vaccines. I'll tell you the name of the disease and the vaccines. Okay, so if I'll talk about the disease, then it is diphtheria. These are the things that diseases for which we get vaccines right in our childhood. When we do not know anything, our moms or our parents try to get all these vaccines, because these are very deadly ones, and we can get these kind of diseases later in life also. So when we are very kid, only that time these vaccinations have been given to us. So one of them is diphtheria, and the vaccine is purified diphtheria toxoid. Okay, so purified diphtheria toxoid. So this is very, very important that you go through all the kind of we have gone through all the kinds of vaccines, and now if you will see, this is a toxoid. So what had I told you about toxoid? That it is a toxin whose virulence has been damaged, whose virulence has been sacked off, and then it is called a toxoid. Okay, then there is meningococcal meningitis. इसमें भी सेम चीज़ यूज़ हो रहा है. Here they are using purified polysaccharide. Again, polysaccharide is one of the um, uh, toxic elements of the bacteria, and meningitis is caused by a bacterium which is called Neisseria so from this bacteria the polysaccharide is used. This polysaccharide is used, and the disease is meningococcal meningitis. Okay, then there is pneumococcal pneumonia. Everybody knows what pneumonia is. Okay, so in pneumonia also it is caused by bacteria, and here killed whole. Okay, that the bacteria is entirely killed, and then it is used as a vaccine, or using the acellular fragments of Bordetella pertussis. Sorry. Okay, so you can use this, or you can also use the purified polysaccharide of Streptococcus pneumonia. So you can use organism. Usually these are not much used because this is very, very toxic. Usually purified polysaccharide is only used. Because this is a very dangerous organism. So only the important part which is disease causing, which is the polysaccharide of this bacteria, are removed or purified, and then it is used as a vaccine. Then there is another very important disease, that is tetanus. All of us in our childhood or later in life have been asked to take a tetanus injection. Why? Because these bacteria, these are present everywhere. These can be present in on the iron rods. These can be present on any kind of rusty material, or corroded iron, or it can be present in the soil. So it is as prevalent as anything, because it can be present in the soil itself. So whenever, wherever you are going outside, if you have got a road accident, or if you have been hit by a rod, or if you have been simply, you have just got a scratch, and you have got laden with soil, so it is very important for you to get a tetanus, because these kind of bacteria, the tetany bacteria, they are present in soil and iron rods or elements. Okay, so for tetanus also we use toxoid. Okay, so toxoid is the kind of vaccine that is used for tetanus. Then there is another disease, Haemophilus influenza. Okay, Haemophilus influenza. So Haemophilus in influenza, here what happens? Again, polysaccharide is used. And here what happens is, polysaccharide has been taken from the influenza virus, and it is conjugated with some protein in order to increase the effectiveness. So please remember that here a protein part is also conjugated for this kind of Haemophilus influenza infection. Okay. Then there is a very common disease which happens in kids, which is whooping cough. When the child starts to cough and it does not stop, it is non-stop coughing problem. So here that disease is called pertussis, and here we can use the killed whole or the acellular fragments of Bordetella pertussis. So this is the organism, this is the bacteria that causes the disease, and this causes pertussis, and we can use the killed whole or the acellular fragments of the Bordetella pertussis organism. Okay, so these are the bacteria for which we have developed some or the other kind of vaccines. Now we will also be letting you know that bacterial and vaccines are not that much effective. Sometimes they are less effective than the viral vaccines, and also what happens is that these can be less immunogenic. Why a bacterial vaccine is less effective? Because it can be less immunogenic. Okay. So sometimes it can be less effective, and it is less effective because, so that is why you must have heard sometime in your life that some kind of vaccine has got relapsed. So the vaccine has stopped working and the patient has developed some kind of disease. That means the vaccine was not effective. It could not stop the patient from being attacked by the bacteria and hence create a disease. Okay. Now let's talk about some viral vaccines. So what are the viruses for which we have developed vaccines till now and they are being used in the market? So first, influenza. So if you know, influenza is the most common viral disease that all of us go through. Approximately some or the other season we get this influenza virus infection. And for this, the kind of vaccine that we have developed is injected vaccine, where the virus is inactivated. So inactivated virus is injected. Okay. And it can be, or it can be nasally administered. कहीं से भी दे सकते हैं, या तो आप उसको इंजेक्ट कर दीजिए या उसको थ्रू नेजल पैसेज वहाँ से दे दीजिए. And this virus, since it is inactivated, it can be used as a vaccine. Okay. Then second is measles. For measles, we use attenuated virus. That means the virus is not dead, it is live, but it is weakened. Okay. Live weak virus is used as a vaccine for measles. Mumps, same attenuated virus is used. Rubella, attenuated virus is used. Okay. Then I think I told you about this, chicken pox, same. So these are the diseases, if you have got in your life once and if you have recovered from it in efficiently, then you will not get this disease later in the life, because this will act as a vaccine itself, and the body will also remember to create the memory cells against these kind of viruses. Okay. Then you have rabies. So to protect from rabies, we also inject our or infect our pets with this rabies virus, so in order to protect them from rabies, so that if we get uh, any kind of infection from that pet, we do not get rabies disease. Okay. So here we use the killed virus. For rabies, we use killed virus as the vaccine. Then there is hepatitis. Hepatitis B. Hepatitis B, here we do not use the entire virus, but only the antigenic fragment of the virus is used. This is also one of the very, very deadly diseases that we have, the kind of infection that we get from hepatitis A. So we use the infected hepatitis B, we use the antigenic fragment of the virus for this disease. Okay. Then then we use hepatitis A. For hepatitis A, we use inactivated virus. So we can use attenuated or inactivated virus for hepatitis A. Then there is smallpox. Here we use live virus. Okay. Here we can use the live virus for smallpox. Obviously these are weakened in order to not cause a disease in the organism. So I have discussed all kinds of bacterial and viral vaccines that are going in the market or that have been developed. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to go and read all of them at once, find out where are you causing a problem, where is there that you are not understanding something. Go through that, read that once properly. So with this, I think we are done with the vaccines, and now I think let's switch to antibodies. So what are these polyclonal and monoclonal antibodies, and how are these made?